My name is Raage. Omaar. I'm the International Affairs Editor for ITV News, and you're joining me. It's about 9 o'clock, or about 10 o'clock actually, in the evening in Hargaysa, which is the capital of Somaliland, the self-declared republic which broke away from the rest of Somalia just over 25 years ago. And the reason why we're here in this ward is that this is the ward that treats a lot of malnourished children that are brought here with their mothers as a result of the ongoing drought in the country. It's a drought that affects, just in Somaliland alone, around 1.5 million people. And a lot of the children have come from far away, from hundreds of miles away. This is the only referral hospital in the whole of Somaliland, which has a population around 4 million, and I think there are 16 beds in this malnutrition ward. It's completely full because this is a drought that has been going on for 3 years and is really affecting people. It's just gives you an idea of the impact on the most vulnerable children. They're sleeping now. The nets, the mosquito nets, are covering them up because that's another risk. Several of the cases have got kwashiorkor, which is the first telltale sign of young children. Abdurrahman, yes, this is Abdurrahman, who we saw just actually yesterday, who has got kwashiorkor, which is basically acute malnutrition. He is 18 months old. Yeah, he's 18 months, but he weighs barely 5 kilos. He should be much heavier if he'd got the nutrition that he needed. The doctors are on hand here. How's things today?
دكتورنا ولا بتشوفه لكن أنت ولا بتشوفين بي وبطيء وأنت هو يكبطيء. وهي وحكب أنت بدو حكب بحر حوالي هيستين يبي مثل عبد الهاين يوم يحول المشروع.
So the doctor who's on duty here said that ever since the drought really took hold over the last 3 years, the number of such cases has really increased quite dramatically. People have lost their livestock. In fact, according to official figures of 18 million population of livestock, 10 million have been lost to the drought. They've also been without water, and the effects of no nutrition from their livestock, the milk that they get, the money that they get from selling that to be able to buy food, and the lack of water obviously has a massive impact. What are the priorities for people affected by the drought? Priority
قررت ومن صراحة وعطيها يعني طبعا ولا صار نفسه إيش نلا هذا في الصفا أنت طبعا دائما يقابعهم باي rural areas كمية أنت طبعا بحرك تبيشنا فطبعا كعبة
Okay, let me translate that bit. So the doctor's saying, ask them what are the priorities really for people, the families, the children, their mothers affected by the drought. And of course, it's two things. It's water and it's food, but particularly food is a lot of high nutritional feed. And I have to say, I mean, there's a number of NGOs, relief organizations, international humanitarian organizations that have been based in Somaliland, even though it's not sort of officially recognized by any country. A lot of institutions and international organizations and governments deal with Somaliland in a practical sense. There's an Ethiopian embassy, as it's called here, a Turkish embassy. There's British diplomats visit here, all the time. Britain is the largest bilateral donor. But a lot of the work of the NGOs has been largely focused on development and stabilization. So, for example, this is supported by UNICEF. Yeah, this ward is supported by UNICEF. Save the Children are doing some work. Action Aid is. Many others are. But such is the scale of the crisis that what's really needed now is a huge, immediate, large presence of aid and food, water and shelter in particular. And it's really a sort of humanitarian sort of response. You can see the state of the sort of children. This child... she's been fed with, what's she been fed with? She's been given...
She was given formula milk.
Yeah, she's been given formula milk. You can see is being given through a small little syringe. It was a chick baby. 3 months. Yeah. So she's very small. How's she doing? How's she doing?
imika way fiican tahay soo fiican
She's getting better at the moment. Actually, she looks pretty.
waxay noogu timid qof caawiyo marka
Yeah. She had pneumonia and she had a chest infection and was vomiting. And her name was Nim'o. Her name's Nim'o. 3-month-old Nim'o. And her mother just feeding her there. I think it's probably best if we go through the supply room. Here's another child that's being fed. It's good to see that they're getting the kind of nutrition that they need and the supplementary feeding. But it's this kind of feeding that you need on an absolutely huge scale, because according to the official figures, there are 300,000 people who are in an acute situation. So 1.5 million people across Somaliland, out of a population of 4 million, have been affected by the drought. Of that 1.5 million, 300,000 are in an acute or emergency situation. That's a huge number of people, and I think most of the NGOs who are here would tell you that the resources that they have are just nowhere near enough to be able to provide, large-scale emergency supplies to, 300,000 people. I think it's important to say that, because I know the UN Secretary General and other very senior officials in the UN involved with Somalia and Somaliland have been in Muqdisho today, where there is also in Somalia a very large crisis, particularly in the southern sort of areas. I think the UN Secretary General visited Baidoa and was able to see for himself, went to a cholera feeding station. There's huge numbers of territories, not just in Somalia and Somaliland, but in South Sudan as well. Ethiopia is now saying its eastern region, which borders Somaliland, is in a dire situation. But I think the thing that makes Somaliland interesting is that, as opposed to Somalia, which has been bedeviled by huge insecurity problems over the last few years, with al-Shabaab militants carrying out attacks across the country, it's a much more permissive environment for aid workers to work in Somaliland. It's pretty stable. We travel from one end to the other. Many other aid workers from Save the Children are all, and lots of other organizations are going out to the rural areas and the hinterland areas, and there isn't really a security problem. It's the kind of situation that I think they would find it much, much harder to do in the rest of Somalia, particularly the south. I think
a lot of questions about UK aid money.
Okay.
Going. A lot of audience asking.
A lot of questions about UK money. Well, UKAID, the British government's aid arm, is the largest bilateral donor to Somaliland. It helps, because it's not recognised, it's got to go through a particular sort of bureaucratic system called the Somaliland Development Fund. So it gives money via UN agencies to help in relief and humanitarian organisations. But I think that with regard to British aid organisations, I think money can be given directly, and aid organisations can respond themselves, because there's no denying the need. One last important point, and I think there'll probably be some questions about this. People want to know, given the situation here, just how time critical the situation is. Within the next 2-3 weeks, there are supposed to be the rains called the GU rains. All rains have failed. There's 2 main rainy seasons certainly in this part in Somaliland. They've failed for the last 3 years. So you've had 3 consecutive years of drought. Now, in the last century, there would always be around 10-year gap between severe drought, so people could at least recover in that period. They failed the last 3 years, which is unprecedented. If these rains that are supposed to come in the next 2 to 3 weeks fail, then I think it'll be completely catastrophic. You've reached a situation where people are down to their very last herds. I've met people who had 400 head of sheep and are down to the last 5 or 6. I've seen carcasses of dead animals all over when I've driven. If those rains fail, then it moves from just the livestock and the land dying. It'll really start to mean that people will die. So we're looking at a period of about 3-4 weeks maximum until we know what the situation is.
Mm-hmm. Can we receive more?
Yeah. Abdurrahman, this is another Abdurrahman. Abdurrahman, he must be 11 months old. Like, okay. It's Abdurrahman. It's the second Abdurrahman we've met in the wood. Luckily, he looks tired. He looks a bit sleepy. But his mother is saying that he is getting better. Yeah,
He's getting better.
He's getting better.
So first he came for Dhaliyey pumpkin and also edema.
Edema.
For feet.
So is that swelling of the
Yeah,
feet?
swelling
Okay.
feet. So now he's improving. Dhaliyey pumpkin stop and
The diarrhea and vomiting has stopped.
Stop and the
Okay.
edema is
Well, that's good.
decreasing.
Good.
He's improving now.
Okay.
And he's feeling oral.
Yeah.
And the
That's an
diarrhea-
infection.
No, it's nutrition problem.
It's a nutrition
Yeah,
problem.
it's-
Okay.
It's nutritional skin change.
Okay.
Skin change due to nutrition.
لكن صوفي عمي. She said that the swelling and the problem with the skin is actually going down. It looks very upsetting, and it is very upsetting. But he is actually getting better. Is that fair to say? Yeah. And so, what do you need? I mean, from a medical point of view, what's the priority here? This is the only referral hospital in the whole of the country for 4 million. This is the malnutrition ward for children, pediatric malnutrition. It's full. You've had to move other kids who need help into general wards. What do you need? To people in Britain who want to know about aid money and spending of aid money, what do you need?
And the main thing in here, you see the space is very small. Only there are 16 beds in this ward, and it's not enough for patients that are in the country. And most patients, they came from different parts of the country.
Yeah, they
Some
come
of
from a long way.
Yeah, a long way.
Yeah.
So you see the space very small, so the space is not enough. So we need a larger space than this, and also but feeding and nutrition and drugs and UNICEF support, so
Yeah.
they get
Do you
free of
need
charge.
more though? Do you need to take this kind of drugs and medicine and supplementary feeding out into the remote, areas where people are having to come from, rather than rely on them coming here?
That's true. In here, UNICEF mainly supports drugs that are very important drugs, but there are other drugs that we don't have here. So we need these other drugs that the patient here will need, apart from the drugs that we receive from UNICEF.
Yeah.
And also for investigations such as blood tests, stool exam,
Okay.
mainly the patient is the
Let's have look at one last child. Do you know the story behind this child?
Yeah, so this patient is 31. So he's 20 months old.
20 months old.
Yeah, it's called Yahya.
Yahya boy.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
boy. He came from Daria vomiting for 3 days.
Okay.
He came from one of the villages in the city, which is called Mohammed Logan.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's got a tube through his nose. He's been given
We were given for therapeutic milk.
therapeutic milk.
For
Okay.
everything, because he cannot take orally by himself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And how's he doing?
Now he's improving.
He's improving. Well, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good.
It's good now.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Doctor, thank you very much indeed.
you're
Thanks
welcome.
very
Thank
much
you so
indeed. And thanks for joining us. Once again, I'm Raage, Omaar, the International Affairs Editor of ITV News. And you've been joining me in Hargaysa Group Hospital here in the capital of Somaliland.